All righty. And so welcome everyone to Leaders Recognizing Leaders. Tonight you are in for a treat. We have with us the one and only Mr. Brandon Freeman, and he's going to share with us a little bit about his career. He's going to talk to us tonight is all about career talks. And our host tonight is none other than Ruby and Kimorah. These are two student leaders here at Leaders Recognizing Leaders. And this is what we do. We encourage them to be able to share this space with great professionals and encourage them to be able to ask some of the very most important questions as it pertains to their career goals. So please, Kimorah, go ahead and quickly introduce yourself. And then we have Ruby, if you can introduce yourself to our speaker, and then we'll jump into our Q&A.
Hi, my name is Kimorah, and I am a freshman at St. Thomas University, and I've been working with volunteering with LRL for my whole high school career, and I'm really excited for tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kimorah. It's a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
Hi, my name is Ruby. I'm in the 11th grade. This is my first time, so I'm glad to be here. And yeah.
Ruby, well, I will make sure that the first time is a great time, and I know you're going to do great, and it won't be the last time. So I'm excited and looking forward to talking with you.
Thank you.
Super. And just to kind of give you all a background of Mr. Frame, Mr. Brandon Frame is actually a graduate of Morehouse College. He is no stranger to leadership. He's an extraordinaire. He's known for servant leadership. And when I looked at his platform, one of the things that I totally admired about him was the focus of taking students from the classroom to the boardroom. And I believe that that is an initiative that he had previously. His focus is about educating and inspiring young men of color, empowering young people. He has a platform of over 200 mentors and have really made an impact over 3,500 young men. So we are super excited and honored to have you with us. And we're going to go ahead and begin with Ruby, who's going to go ahead and start with our first question. Welcome.
Sorry. Okay. The first question is, what is your typical day like?
A typical day, it's a great question. The first thing I'll say, even as I preface that answer, is you got the same 24 hours in a day that everybody else has, right? And so time management is a crucial thing, and it's something you learn, and it's something that changes. It's ever evolving in terms of what balance will look like. And so my day, I being in a virtual world, I would say that my day ranges from 7 in terms of like really working on stuff a lot, and being efficient with my time. It goes from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. But during the day, there's not to say that I'm working that whole time. I may stop and eat lunch. I may go watch a show on Netflix for 30 minutes. But in that time, I'm doing emails. I am having meetings. Before there was COVID-19, I live in New York City, so I may be on the subway heading from school to school, or could be, on a plane heading somewhere. So every day looks different. That's the beauty of my life, and I appreciate the opportunity to have a different day and interact with so many different amazing people, from teachers and principals to students, every single day. And so yes, but I would say my day kind of starts at 7, ends at 8. In the middle of that is meetings, conversations, phone calls. Also, I love to read, so I try to get some reading in there as well. I'm also a doctoral student, so schoolwork could be in the mix of all that, right? So that's kind of like my day. Again, no day is the same. Every day is different. The biggest thing is finding the balance that works best for you.
Okay, so for the second question, great answer, by the way. What type of educational background is required or highly recommended?
This is an awesome question. I literally, where I work, we had this conversation around like what does post-secondary readiness look like? And what I believe is that as what K through 12 education has to do is to give students all the possible opportunities and pathways that are available to them. For some people, it may be going right after high school, going to college. For some people, it may be going right into the world of work. I think it's really incumbent upon K through 12 education to really think about what post-secondary readiness is, and then make sure we prepare students for all the opportunities, because some people may go take up a trade, or go right into the world of work, in a host of different areas. There are people who are going to be entrepreneurs and start their own businesses right out of high school, or start them while they're in high school. And I don't think right now our K through 12 system is not set up for the 21st century generation that we live in. It's actually set up for the way education is set up. Was built for the second industrial revolution. We are currently in our fourth industrial revolution, right? And that right now looks like the tech wave and everything that's happening in that space. But what we do in terms of how school is built out the second industrial revolution. And so that's why so many things need to change, to actually give everyone the opportunities available to them so they can be successful and pursue the interest on the things that they like. So that is my thing. So I don't really get into because some people won't go to college right after high school. Some people will go at 25, some people will go at 35, right? But then they had this long career in different spaces. So I think, again, there's no one size fits all when it comes to what type of education you have. Now, there also are things that you need to go to college and get your master's and your doctorate degree to do, right? I don't know about everybody on the call, but I know for me, I don't want to pull up to my doctor and they kind of like, yeah, so, I just, I didn't do this, or I didn't go here, but I'm ready to do some surgery. Like you won't really feel comfortable with that. So I think there are some different professions that require you to, there's a clear path in terms of doing certain things. You want to be an attorney, like there's certain clear pathways, but where things that aren't as cut and dry, I think that our K through 12 education system has to do a better job of giving young people the opportunities and experiences that allow for them to flourish once they leave high school.
What is the most challenging part of your profession?
Most challenging part of the profession. I'm going to answer this question. Then I see that Kayla has also asked a question, so I'll answer that too after I answer this one. The most challenging part, that's a great question, because I don't. I think it's always just most challenging. That's a great question, because I don't necessarily, I find myself with different problems that I have to think through and things to solve. But they're all like really good problems. Like I've never really had problems like, oh man, I got to figure that out. Like, oh, I like trying to figure these different problems out. Most challenging aspects. I would say as you move up in your career, the most challenging aspects of things that you can do is to manage people. Once you have a team that you are responsible for, and you are now responsible for that individual person's development, and let's just say you get to a place where you have a team. Right now I have 2 direct reports in what I do, right? And so I'm responsible for what they do, and then they have people that report to them, right? And so it's important for me to develop them in a way that they will flourish and be able to go and do great things, but also make sure that they're doing the same thing for people that report to them. So I think the challenge is working with adults and learning what makes people go, learning how to push the right buttons with people to get the most out of them, but also develop them in a way that they can go on and be successful. So I think that that's the developing leaders. So what this is about, leaders, developing leaders, like that is one of the biggest challenges you can have, right? Is to say, how am I going to make this person, you are now responsible for this person's development, this whole adult, and making sure that you lead in a way that allows for them to be able to be successful once they are no longer reporting to you, or should you move on um, to the net to another role or gig or whatnot. So that would be my question there. And then I'll go over here. I just see some of the questions. Or is there a format? Is we wait till the questions till the end? I don't want to overstep the leaders, the host boundaries. So I don't know.
Yes,
No.
we do have a couple of questions for you, and then we can jump straight into our Q&A after.
Okay, we'll do that.
What type of advice would you ask? I mean, what type of advice would you give to someone who's interested in your field?
Um, that's another great question. I think that one thing that I'm not sure everybody's age on the call, but I'm 32. And so being that you both are high school students, so we grew up in two different generations, right? When I was in high school, just to give an idea before I answer this question, when I was in high school, the iPhone didn't exist, right? So I just want you to put this in perspective, right? iPhone didn't exist, Instagram didn't exist, Facebook didn't exist. We use MySpace, Black Planet. I know Edwina's over there laughing because she knows what I'm talking about here. What else? So YouTube, all these things did not exist when I was, a senior or a junior in high school. Just give you even so much so, the Common App did not exist when I was in high school. So just think about everybody that is probably using that to apply to school. That whole concept somebody was thinking about it, but it didn't exist when I was in high school. And so what I would say to somebody that is trying to get into my profession or just wants to be successful, because I do a lot of different things, right? Like I have 4 or 5 different streams of income. I'm an author. I have a nonprofit. I work at a nonprofit as well. So I'm kind of like in a lot of different spaces. I'm playing in real estate. So I'm all into all these different things. The first thing I would say is to start. When I started the Black Man Can in 2010, I just started. I didn't, what I like to say now is you don't let social media rush you. Right now, there's not a person on here, including myself, who probably hasn't looked at something on social media and said, well, what about me? How can I, when is my success gonna come? You just compare yourself. And comparison is the thief of joy, right? And so the biggest thing is to just start, because once you start, you get to mold your idea into what it's gonna be, right? And what I say to anyone is that you have to give your idea 24 months, right? 24 months. Whatever you want to start, whatever you're thinking about, whatever goal or dream you have to dedicate 24 months. And if you go hard at it for 24 months, I promise you that it will be much bigger, better, and greater than you could than even the thought that you had in your brain. Things will happen that you couldn't even imagine. And I'll give you one example of this. So I'm an author. This is one of my books. It's right here. It's called My First Tie. It is a children's book about little Dell and his journey to tie his tie for the first time. Right. So I wrote this book, right? I co-authored it with this amazing woman named Tanae. She lives in Los Angeles. And so, right, I was like, I came with the manuscript, met Tanae, boom, let's collaborate and make a book. And so since then, right, I've gone all over the country and read to first and second graders. And anytime you start your day with little kids, it's a great day. But I went to, at one of my book signings, a young man had already bought the book, and he brought the book to the book signing, and he did a book report on my book. Now, I'm just to my point, when I was writing a book and thinking about it, I didn't think about a second grader doing a book report on my book, right? And analyzing the characters. I just like It fits what the Black man can. I want to be a children's book author. It's a really cool thing to do, so I'm gonna just do it, right? And then all these amazing things happen from it. Interviews, people buying the book, people see me, can you sign my book? You know, so that's just a small example of like, you just got, if you have an idea or something that you're working on, you just got to start. You got to put it out into the atmosphere and work on it. Don't worry about people telling you if it's good or bad. You constantly work and you constantly evolve. Even with the Black Man Can, it started in 2010. The Black Man Can started as a blog. MK Asante is one of my favorite scholars, and he says, once you make an observation, you have an obligation. And so I made this observation that Black men and boys need to see positive images of themselves and need to have their stories told. And then from there, it's grown. So it started as a blog. All of us on here, some of you may already have a blog. I started a blog, and then the blog grew into a LLC. The LLC turned into a nonprofit organization. We've trademarked. We got 500,000 followers on Instagram. We raised about $40,000 a year. We got merchandise now, you know, like, but it was just a blog, right? In 2010, I had no idea that I would be sitting here with you talking about 10 years later what it's become, right? So I'm just telling you 24 months, let alone what happens if you work on something for 10 years, right? And if you dedicate your time and you manage your time effectively, you can have success in a lot of different areas if you go hard. And so that's like my answer to that question. It was a little longer than you probably expected, but that's just my thinking there. That's my advice. Just to start, don't let social media rush you. And I mean, I'll get all biblical too. You know, I start tying the scripture to this whole thing, but I won't go there. But don't let social media rush you. Start. Don't let social media rush you. Don't compare yourself, because comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah, that's what I got.
Well, that was great. I like that answer. And so the next question is, what would you say are some of the most important skill sets that you use in your line of work, and how do you keep them sharp?
Awesome question. So actually, my job outside of running the Black Man Can and some other stuff is I'm actually the director of social emotional learning. So I work with schools and districts across the country around implementation, sustainability, and building their capacity to teach social emotional learning. And so to that question, those are the skills. So first we have to look at the idea of social and emotional learning as skills. Everyone here can get better at goal-directed behavior, optimistic thinking, self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making. All these things kind of go into what's going to be successful. When you look at every major company and they're talking about what kids need or what they're looking for from college graduates, if you might remember the Pythagorean theorem and y plus mxb equals 4 and all these things, right? What they're looking for is these social emotional skills, because all learning is social and emotional. And so it's important that we make sure that students are learning these skills and constantly building on those skills. So for everyone here, it's building on those social and emotional skills, because that's going to allow you to be successful. It's going to allow you to be the effective leader that you need to be going forward. And so that's like my big thing is around the social emotional skills, and all of us internalizing that those are things we can get better at, right? It's not that, oh, well, I'm just this way, right? Like I just have low self-awareness. So you can get better at self-awareness, right? So when I think about, so let's think of, everybody may have seen or has experienced a 2-year-old, right? And so a 2-year-old knows what it wants to do, but what does a 2-year-old not have yet? It does not have language, right? So when a 2-year-old wants to go do something and it doesn't manifest and how the 2-year-old expects it to do, what does the 2-year-old do? He whines, he cries, he rolls on the floor, and gets really upset, right? And so for some of us, that's just an example of where we are, even as teenagers and as adults. We know we want to do something, but there's some things that we want to will happen or whatever, but we don't have necessarily the language or the opportunity or the access to these things. So then we get upset, we get depressed, all these different things, emotions start to come into play, But what we need is the opportunity to work on those skills, or we need an opportunity or access to this information that will allow for us to learn and get better. And so that's my big thing in terms of skills is to really work on our social and emotional learning so that we can thrive in society. I think for the most part, like we a lot of times we just look at it as we just want to survive, right? That's the mentality we gotta let go of. We can no longer. You shall not look at life like, yo, I just want to make it, or I'm good with just being mediocre, or I'm good with just getting by. No, we want to thrive in life, right? We want to have all the things that allow for us to live in abundance. Not only should you want that, you deserve that, right? And so, and by developing these skills, it allows us to get to a point to be able to live that life where we're thriving and enjoying everything possible.
So I want to give an opportunity for a question in the chat room. I know that we have Kayla here with us. You asked such a great question. So I want us to just pause for a quick second and invite Kayla to come on and to share her question. Kayla Bello is an amazing global-minded student leader. And so Kayla, if you can go ahead and ask your question, that would be great.
Okay, Kayla got a lot of questions. I feel like I gotta answer each one.
Yeah, so I just love what you're talking about, like the education system, everything you're doing. So I think the most important question I have is, what's your dream for how our educational system is going to look implementing this social emotional learning and everything else you're talking about? Like, what's your dream for this new way of education in the 21st century?
Listen, Kayla, you're speaking to my heart right now. Okay, when I think about this question, so this is what I do, right? My dream here is I work with school districts and principals to do this work. And so what it looks like when most of you, even some of the schools that you may go to now or the schools you attended, when it comes to social emotional learning within the building, it usually just sits with one person. That's usually the social worker or the school counselor. And what we have to do is to start aligning our schools, okay, or every school is already built around academic development, right? It is built so that you learn math, science, history, foreign language, but it's not built around social emotional learning and academic development. And so where I work, what we've done is we've actually built tools that allow for schools to implement and sustain these social emotional practices and align social emotional competencies to all the inputs within the building. It allows for them to create a plan of how they're going to integrate social emotional learning in academics. How are you going to, here's a perfect example, and some of you may have experienced this. This is like a perfect, I love giving this example, okay? So everybody in here has taken a math class before, right? Or a class, math, science, doesn't matter, right? First, we just want to remember all learning is social and emotional. Okay, that's important. You want to write that down. All learning is social and emotional. Right now, everybody on here has experienced a time where they turned in an assignment and they got every single question on the assignment or the answer to the assignment. You got it right, right? However, you turned it in late. So that means that you understand and have mastery of the content and you know everything that is going on. However, you have turned in the assignment late. So now you got a B instead of an A. Now, the teacher has graded you on two different things. They have graded you on mastery of content and you got that all right. The idea that you didn't turn it in on time for whatever reason, right, is a social emotional skill, which is around self-management. And so maybe you just turned it in late because you turned in late. Maybe it doesn't matter what the reason was, you turned in late, but you got a grade for two different things. However, the teacher in theory actually never taught you or even really had a discussion around why you need to turn something in on time, right? And so now you've gotten a grade for your mastery of content, but you also got a grade for your social emotional skill, but the social emotional skill was actually never taught to you. Right, if we're just being very honest, but the mastery and skill and content was taught to you. The idea that you need to turn it on time was something that the teacher just expected you to do because you should do it. So that's implicit, where the mastery of content was explicit. The question is, as schools and thinking about the dream, is like, how do we get all teachers and everybody to see that both need to be explicit, right? And so no matter, even after you leave elementary school, because in elementary school they focus on this, but once you get to middle school and high school, it's all about science, history, English, foreign language, right? You didn't get that social emotional development anymore, right? Because everybody can remember K-5 and getting like why you need to turn things in on time and whatnot. But then we lose that when we get to middle school and high school. And so that social emotional development must continue through the whole K-12 spectrum. And when we do that, we then create young people who are then truly prepared to leave our schools and be successful, because the social emotional skills aren't just about making sure that you're good at school and there's no fights and kids don't get suspended. It's not really about that. It's about giving you skills that allow for you to be successful once you leave. Algebra, right, might not necessarily is a skill. The analytical thinking that you get from math, right, is what allows you to be successful when you get older. It might not be that x plus 2 equals 4 solve for x. It's the analytical thinking that comes from that, right? And so, but that's not how math is described to you, right? Most people don't remember math being described as like, well, the reason why you're learning this is to develop the analytical thinking skills that allow for you to be successful when you move on from high school or from middle school. That's a whole different thought process around why math is important, other than like, let me just get the assignment done or whatnot. So just to your point, my dream is to have schools across the country developed around social and emotional learning. And I feel it's my responsibility with the work that I do to push that needle forward. And that's why I do what I do, and continuing to try to grow the work and the use of our tools to move schools in that direction.
Super. And then we have a question from DeWill. Would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, I have a question. So my question is like, what is like your drive? What is your motivation to keep going?
Another phenomenal question. My drive, my motivation. I'm just, I am, I don't know. Sometimes I'm just about that life. Like I just think that, like that's why the organization, you know, is called the Black Man Can, right? Because like I know that I can. Like I know I deserve a seat at the table. I belong at the table, and I can lead the table. I know that I'm capable of any idea that comes to mind. So I think ideas, right? Ideas are spiritual children seated by God inside of us. And I believe that he places the people around us and the tools around us to manifest those ideas into reality. And that's like part of my motivation. I also am the oldest of my mom's kids, right? So I know my siblings look up to me. I've been in education for 10 plus years. I'll run into students that I had 10 years ago, like Mr. Frame, you know, I've been following you, you know, and the way you move is definitely, you know, inspiration to me. So I know people kind of like look up to me and stuff. So that's some motivation. And then just myself, like I just get happy to like accomplish different tasks, or, you know, when I was talking about the challenges, right? So like this year we launched our merchandise business. So we've been doing the Black Man Can, but this year we launched our merchandise. I'll put the code in the chat for everybody. It's a Black Friday sale. It ends at midnight tonight. So if you want some merchandise, you know, you can go, and I'll put the code in the chat for if you want to go check out. We got hoodies and hats, but we started the merchandise business, right? And so that was in January, and I launched it. So this goes back to my other point. I just be doing stuff, and I'm like, we're gonna launch an e-commerce business, but we don't even know nothing about e-commerce. But we're gonna do it. And then so what happens? We put it out, and guess what? People bought the stuff. So now what happens? I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get the stuff to people. I didn't even figure that out yet. I don't even know. I just said we just gonna do it, right? And so we got to order the stuff. We got to print it. You know, I just wanted to see what's going to happen. And people actually bought the stuff, right? And so now that people are buying, right, we have to think about how we're going to get it to them. And then even in the midst of that, right, what happens when people, so right now, if you go to Macy's or a department store or something, when you buy something, it don't fit, what do? You take it back, and then they give you something else. But we're a small business, a little different. You order the wrong size. You're like, well, I ordered the wrong size. Can you send me the right size? It's e-commerce. Well, what does that problem look like? Should we charge them more? it's COVID-19. We can't take back the clothing and then resell it. Don't nobody want to use t-shirt or use hoodie, even though you wouldn't know. That's not good business, right? So like that's just a situation to figure out. Or like a lot of people were starting e-commerce business. So like places we were ordering from was running out of merchandise. Like, okay, well, we got to find more suppliers, right? So these are all like really cool problems to figure out. So that's just my my example of like, oh, that's the drive, because it's always something to figure out, to something to get better at. And I love that. I love to think through these different issues and these different problems and figure out the solution. And because once you do, it's going to be another problem, or like what I like to say, there more stumbling blocks are on the way. But I love turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones. That's motivation for me. So those are just some of the different things that motivate me. And as you can see, I'm high energy. I get, I'm focused. I'm ready. I'm loving this conversation. And that's just kind of like how I move. And yeah, and I like to inspire. I like to get people up and going. Like, I love sitting with other people and talking about ideas. Like, tell me what you're thinking. What kind of business you want to start? What you want to do? So and then also, I love talking about it, because then I get to help people. There's some businesses I could be like, oh yeah, I remember when that was just an idea and we talked about it, and look at them flourishing, being great, thriving. Like that drives me. That definitely motivates me. So
I have to say, Brandon, I absolutely love your energy. We are like the night and day of energy. And so I have to say, it's so exciting to be able to have you with us on this platform. We have to bring you back again, because we have encouraged the young people. Most of our student leaders are high school students, and we have some college students with us. So we're going to get ready to wrap up our session today with one final question that Kimorah has. So I'm going to let Kimorah ask her question, and then we're going to get ready to wrap up. And anyone who have additional questions, we're going to make sure that we follow back up with Mr. Brandon Freeman, because we got to keep this energy going. This is just contagious. So please go ahead, Kimorah.
Okay, yeah. So my last question is, what are some of your hobbies?
That's a good question. Hobbies. Let's see. One, I just put the link in the chat for those who are interested. Hobbies. So I like to play basketball. I haven't played as much because of the pandemic and stuff, but I play basketball. I go to the gym. I like to read. I'm a big reader. I'm currently reading like 4 books right now. One, partly because I'm in school, so I have to read more. So I'm reading a few books. I just picked up a Barack Obama's book as well, so I'm working through that, along with How to Be Anti-Racist, which is a really great book that I think people would enjoy. What else do I like to do? You know what? Be honest with y'all, I love me some Netflix, man. I be on Netflix, Lost, right? Like documentaries. I love me a good rom-com. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I like it. I like me, Netflix, they be like 90-minute movies. They're perfect. Like, it's a nice little break in the middle of the day or on a Saturday, like morning, cook some breakfast. I'm gonna throw on a rom-com. That's good. But what I also will say is that Netflix, what I see on Netflix, it reminds me that we can all be filmmakers, because we've all looked at something you like, somebody gave them money to make this. I got a better storyline in my head. Matter of fact, my day is a better storyline that could be a movie that somebody would watch. So that's one thing I also take away from watching Netflix. I'm like, you know what? Everybody on here has a story they could tell, and it can be a movie. And guess where it would end up on? It'd end up on Netflix. And guess what? People will watch it, right? We all got a story, whether it's a happy story, it's a sad story, whatever it is, it can be a movie. That's what Netflix has taught me. So I'm thinking about what movies I could make. Because like I said, we've all seen them, like, that's a movie? Somebody paid? They gave them money to make that movie? That's what they did with the money? I need to make a movie. So that's one thing that I take away from Netflix. So those are just some of the things that I like to, and I used to really like going to the movies. I was an avid moviegoer. Obviously, I'm into Netflix, but I love the movies. I like collecting souvenir cups. I'm really big on souvenir cups. I know that's a little weird, might be weird, but I got every stadium I go to, anytime a new movie's coming out, I gotta get my souvenir cups. I got lots of souvenir cups in my cabinets.
Well, we have to get our LRL souvenir cup over to you now that we know what your
Yes.
passion is. And so, Dr. Heather Cheryl, I don't know if you'd like to just give us a closeout or any final thoughts for our speaker tonight in this career talk.
I don't have any additional comments, but I will just say, thank you once again. And like Edwina mentioned before, hopefully the additional questions that weren't asked are gotten over to you so that, or we can get you back another time so we can finish out asking the questions.
Listen, you can have me back. I will gladly come back, and I will be early. Not only will I be early, and then when I think you guys are in Florida, so Florida open. So but I know we ain't linking up. But I'm saying Florida open. A little dip. Florida and Texas and Georgia, y'all different. But that's okay. I ain't judging nobody. No, but when the world opens up, I will. I'll come down and we could do this in person.
That is super. And any final comments from our hosts and our co-hosts for tonight? Any final closing thoughts?
Well, I want to say that thank you so much for coming, and it was a great night. I had a good time.
It was my honor, Kimorah, to have you as a host. So thank you for asking such wonderful questions. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes, I also wanted to say thank you. I also have other questions to ask, so I'll probably just DM you on your Instagram.
Ruby, that no problem. Please feel free to do so. I appreciate you and thank you for this opportunity to be invited to your space to share.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're on mute.
We also have our Vice President of Strategic Partnerships with us. I see she's sending a message. So Taylor, you want to go ahead and share your request?
Hi, I just wanted to say hello. Thank you so much for today. I say this a lot in Leaders Recognizing Leaders, that I take a lot of gems, a lot of great words of wisdom. So thank you so much for your time. And please, 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 I hope to message you for another opportunity for our program to hear more about you. And if there's anything that we can do on our end, I'm the person that you can go to. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Taylor. And I look forward to communicating with you. And again, I'm just honored to be invited to this space. I hope that everybody was able to take away at least one thing. And I look forward to joining you again in the future.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a beautiful night. And it was a pleasure to have you with us again, Brandon. Thank you.
You're welcome.